do everything humanly possible to make sure that we find out what caused this, that it never happens again. But right now, we're doing everything we can to rescue our miners.
A misaligned belt that was serving the longwall unit at the Alma No. 1 mine at Aracoma caught fire. The beltman who was closest nearby discovered the fire. By the time he found it, it was already starting to pick up pretty good.
The miners are evacuating in a haze of smoke and fire that's very difficult to get through, and 2 men on the way out perished.
When they found Don, no part of his face was exposed, and he was in a fetal position, curled up. He didn't panic. He was in a death trap.
Did the Aracoma mine, in your estimation, fall below Massey standards?
Yes.
It did?
Well, obviously, on the tragedy, it fell below our standards, yes.
Okay.
I don't know that any mine lives up to our standards.
I think that's all the questions I have, Mr. Blankenship.
Thank you.
The suffering, the pain that everyone has endured is more than any state should have to go through. I can only tell you, this has got to stop, and it's going to stop.
The United States Attorney's Office, as a part of its deal, agreed that it would stop its investigation at the subsidiary level, at the Aracoma level, and that they wouldn't look up the executive chain into Massey. But at the end of the day, in so many ways, it felt like a failure, because that decision to tell Don Blankenship that he had nothing to fear from the federal government, in my estimation, is what gave us Upper Big Branch.
I wanna live, so I'll be ready on that day when Jesus comes, so that I could go home with him and not be left behind like some.
I want to update you now on a breaking news story in West Virginia. 6 miners killed, 21 at least unaccounted for.
Some more information as to how many dead, how many missing.
Updated numbers I want to share with people. As we understand it now, 19 the miners still unaccounted for. Again, 7 dead.
A surge in safety violations of last year, and this year alone, 122 violations.
And it has now been 16 hours since the deadly explosion at the Massey Energy Company's Upper Big Branch coal mine in Montcole, West Virginia. It is the worst blast since 1984. Officials still hoping that they will find some survivors, but they have warned the families that the situation is dire.
It is, and what we know right now is at least 25 miners were killed in the blast. 4 others.
So supposedly what happened, the shearers hit some sandstone. There are a lot of sparks. There's a massive explosion. And this explosion apparently touched off all the coal dust floating throughout all these 7 miles of seams. While some miners were blown to smithereens, literally blown apart, seriously vaporized by this. Other miners found that they were asphyxiated. Ventilation of Upper Big Branch always had been in question. You need to keep good air coming in and bad air going out. But Blankenship had always fought with regulators over the type of ventilation system that mine had and the kinds of doors they did to have locks and airlocks, et cetera, to make sure that the air was always good. Miners were afraid of that mine.
Let me state for the record, Massey does not place profits over safety. We never have, and we never will, period.
Mr. Blankenship, you say that Massey does not place profits over safety, never have, never will. That's what you said in your statement. But in a memo, here's a quote. If any of you have been asked by your group presidents, your supervisors, engineers, or anyone else to do anything other than run coal, you need to ignore them and run coal.
29 men are now dead dead, simply because they went to work that morning.
My brother was a shift foreman for UBB, and he would multiple times on a shift call to the switchboard telling them that he didn't have enough air, tell them that he needed to shut down the shift for the safety of his men. And I know that my brother's job was threatened on more than one occasion. He was told without hesitation that if he didn't get that shift running and keep that shift running, that they would find somebody who could do that for him. His son has cystic fibrosis, and my brother knew that he had to maintain a job in order to maintain an insurance, in order to keep his son well and healthy. The people he worked for knew that about him, so they knew that they had power and control, and that through the power of intimidation, they could ask him to do things that he did not feel that was in the best interests of the people under his care.
We do not desire to compete with those who drive down safety standards. These miners at Massey should have the right to look at any boss in the eye who tries to put them in an unsafe situation. These miners should possess the right to say, "Kiss my ass." These miners at Upper Big Branch, they were Don Blankenship's employees. They were our friends.
You know, my family member who told us that my brother was gone right from the get-go went in and looked at that disaster after that was all over with, and he said, that area where your brother was completely unrecognizable. My brother's body was mangled in such a way that I did not recognize him. Every bone in his body when he was x-rayed by the autopsy people showed that every single bone was crushed. That's what they gave us back.
These were hardworking and brave men. And I know you all know it takes brave men to work beneath the surface. Mining was the job they chose, and it was the job they loved. I believe that each of those 29 miners, like every miner working today, had not only a strong commitment to provide a good living for their families, but a deep patriotic pride that the work they did and the energy that they produced made America strong and free. I pledge to each and every one of you and these wonderful families that your loved ones will not have died in vain.